Hello, friends. This is Tony, space rocker of the planet Earth, back again with you on a Friday. TGIF. TGIF Friday. And for most people in the world, this is a very special day because they're going to have a weekend off, mostly. In reality, some people over here in the United States work on Saturdays and even Sundays. But this is a different animal right here. The United States. This is a 24/7 crunch, I call it. But most of the people that have a steady job, J-O-B, they work from Monday to Friday. And they're looking forward to having 2 days off. So TGIF to everyone that's still at a job. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Today we're going to continue with this month's series on self-awareness, part of a self-encouragement, self-help, being a better you. And we're going to be talking about a topic called self-conscious. Self-conscious. This is very real. Very real when it comes to your development. And it starts at a very, very early age. Right here in the United States, mostly. Because the kids are exposed to so many things. And it's getting worse now. It was one way when I was little. And it was another way when I was, say, my mid-30s. And now it's a different way. And the kids are more digitalized. They learn to swipe before they learn to write. So I call them the digital kids. But back again with the self-conscious topic. Self-conscious is something that you have and you develop throughout your life. As a kid, you become aware when you first probably look in the mirror somewhere. According to the experts, between the ages of 2 and 3. For some people, it's a little later. There's nothing wrong with that. And then depends on the culture also. Because in some like undeveloped cultures, it could start at a different age, at a much later date. Like maybe 6 years old, let's say. But basically, self-conscious is a highlight awareness of oneself, especially when you in a social setting. Some people have extreme self-conscious, which is they are very worried about their appearance, their actions. When they're around other people, they're always looking at what other people might be thinking about them. And this usually happens in the school years. And then you develop either a moderation or an extreme self-consciousness after that. And moderately, it could be good for you. If you have a moderate self-consciousness, it could be good for you because it could be healthy, and it could be like you grow with it and you understand that, yeah, I have to be aware that other people are looking at me, but I'm not excessively worried about it or anything. In fact, I'm going to take responsibility for my actions, for what I do, and how I behave in front of people, so that they don't think I'm a wacko. And that's still like a lot of self-awareness. But then again, if you become so aware of your self-consciousness that you're always looking at people like they're looking at you, and you're thinking that they're thinking something about you that they probably not thinking, and you're always like all nervous and everything, that can lead to excessive self-consciousness, and that can lead to actual isolation, and something different that we're going to talk about later in another video, which is that word again, social anxiety. And you start isolating from the world because of this excessive self-consciousness. But I could tell you one thing, and I'll give you an example like I usually do. I'll give you a little story here. I'm lucky enough to remember when I became aware that I existed. And of course, I can go back to the picture of that day, because that day they took pictures, and we went on an outing. I was about 3 years old. I'm a little bit older than 3 years old. I'm not sure if I was closer to 4 years old or closer to 3 years old, but I was in between 3 and 4 years old. The first day that I remember that I existed. And there's a place in Puerto Rico called El Verde and El Yunque. And my dad used to love to go to those places. And those places have like nice rivers and everything, and rocks, and it's a place where it's a beautiful place where people go and they take their families and they go swimming between the rocks and everything and the river, and sometimes there's little cascades in the path of the rivers, and it's very beautiful. So we was out there, and of course I don't know how to swim, but I wandered around, and I went in a little pond, but it wasn't that little. That's the thing, because these little rivers got like little ponds around, and you think the pond is like shallow, but it's not. That little pond could be like 15, 20 feet deep. And so what did I do? I wandered around, like I said, about 3 years old, and I went inside the pond. And luckily, my dad, according to other adults that tell the story, he took 3 big steps. And he went inside the pond, deep inside the pond. And he got me out. They thought I was dead. I had drank so much water that I had water in my lungs and everything. But they took me out, and I guess they resuscitated me. And I started coughing water and came back to life. I remember that day like it was today. Today. It didn't give me fear of water, thank God. But that was a rude awakening. That was a very rude awakening for like a 3-year-old. So, what did they do? They put me on top of a picnic table so I wouldn't get down. I even remember all this stuff. Then I wanted to go back to see the pond that I went in. And I guess I told my dad or something, or made him take me over there. And he took me over there in his arms. Then he put me on the edge of the pond, and he started telling me, you cannot go in the pond. You're not supposed to go in the pond. You're supposed to be with me when you're close to the water. And he put me like that, and I went down, and I saw my reflection on the water. And I stood there for maybe seconds, and I saw my reflection on the water in my face. And that's the first time I remember that I existed. And I figured it might have been because of that rude awakening, of that close call to death at that early age. So maybe I would have taken a little longer to figure out who I was. But because I had this traumatic experience, I can remember it today like it was today. And some self-conscious, self-awareness, yes. But you cannot be overly excessive on how people look at you. In fact, most of the things that you think that people are thinking about you, they're not. So don't worry about it. Throughout my life, I've been one of the ones that never really cared about that. And I hope a lot of people can be like me, but unfortunately, it's not this way. It's the other way around. But with this one, I want to say hi to everybody. I want to say hi to all the people around the world that follow my music and follow my videos. I know who you are, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Today, with the subject of self-conscious, don't worry so much about what people think about you, because it's not what you think. This is Tony DeSant, space rocker of the planet Earth, still living in this beautiful planet called Earth, today with the subject of self-conscious. I'll see you on my next video.